Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. I declare this meeting open. Periodically, I advise my mayoral expenses beyond the allowances that I receive. For this past month, $60.52 on fuel and $17.49 on tea and coffee. So when you come and visit me, you're getting tea and coffee on behalf of the community. We have apologies from Councillor Hayward this evening, and Councillor Steck has indicated she will be late. I have received a declaration of interest from Councillor Steele. It's an impartiality interest on item 10.5.1 regarding the traffic flow modifications, as her general practitioner is located in Fielder Street. And there's also noted in the agenda that Councillor Steele has also declared an impartiality interest in item 10.2.3, which is a proposed deed of lease at the tennis club, as her children play tennis at the club. Are there any further declarations of interest, councillors? Public question time. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. First question is, can council advise how many employees of council and its subsidiaries who were employed as at the 30th of June 2014 have ceased to be employees of council as of the 1st of May 2015, preferably broken down into the areas where they were employed? Question 2, can council please advise of progress on the sale of lot 66 at the corner of Scott Street and Ocean Drive, for which I understand an offer and acceptance was signed in September 2014, and in particular when council will inform the public of the sale price and the terms and conditions of the sale, and to advertise the sale for public comment. And 3, can council also advise approximately when it proposes to advertise the new town planning scheme and the proposed timetable to have the new scheme finally approved?
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to question 1, no, we can't. The city only reports staff turnover in accordance with the adopted workforce plan on a financial year basis, and that will be provided after 30th of June. Question 2. 3 of the 4 conditions have been satisfied, with one outstanding condition being that the West Australian Planning Commission grant final approval of the detailed structure plan submitted by the purchaser for lot 66 before the 30th of June 2016. After satisfaction of this condition, the disposal will be advertised in accordance with the Act. In question 3, the draft local planning strategy and draft town planning scheme 8 have been referred to the Department of Planning for review, with a recommendation for public exhibition. The time frame for final approval now rests with the WAPC and the Minister.
Thank you. Move on to 7.1, councillors. I'm prepared to move we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So
Councillor Cook. Second to Councillor Jones. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of the advisory committee that were held during the period, so I'm prepared to move. Councillor McCleary, seconder. Councillor Cook, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any petitions, councillors? We have 3 requests for deputations this evening. Mr. Smith of Picton Crescent requests approval to speak to items 10.2.3 and 10.2.5. Those who agree, please indicate. Those who do not, please indicate. That request is denied. We have a request from Mr. Karetamoglu from the Bunbury Tennis Club seeking to make a deputation or presentation on item 10.2.3. Those who agree, please indicate. That's approved. We have a request from Mr. M. James seeking to make a presentation with respect to item 10.5.1. Those who agree, please indicate. That's approved. So to Mr Karatamoglu and Mr James, when we get to those items, I'll invite you to come forward to do your presentation, which will be 5 minutes each, if you need that time. So we'll move on. Councillors, at this stage, we have item 10.2.3, 10.2.4 and 10.5.1 coming out. Are there any other items for discussion? Can I have someone move the en bloc? Councillor Jones, Councillor Cook.
Seconded.
All in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Mr Karatamoglu, would you care to come forward? We're dealing with 10.2.3. Councillors, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. For those of you that don't know, I'm the president of the Bunbury Tennis Club, and it came as a surprise to me. I was overseas when we received some correspondence to say that the lease that I had negotiated in good faith with the previous Director of Finance had somehow gone back to Council. Just for those of you that don't know, I negotiated with the previous Financial Director. He came back to me and he proposed the new lease figure would be $9,000 odd, and I was rather surprised. I went to my board, we spoke about it. Needless to say, we couldn't afford that, we couldn't pay that, and I'll explain why. And after going backwards and forwards, we basically agreed on a figure. I said $3,000. He came back to me and he said the figure was $3,040. We weren't going to argue for $40. It was accepted. And then just recently we've received correspondence to say it's gone back to Council. The new rate is $9,200, I believe. Now, I want to explain that the Bunbury Tennis Club is a city asset. It's open to the public. It's been run by us as volunteers, and we really do a fantastic job. The City of Bunbury can be extremely proud for the facility that we have. In fact, it's a world-class facility. It really is. About a week and a half ago, we held a tournament here. We had 140 participants that came all around the state and really enjoyed and had a comment on that facility. Over the last 6 years, approximately $240,000 has gone into that facility. That money has come out of donations, sponsorships. The City Council has offered $9,000 towards that, and that was towards the roof of the building because it was asbestos. It was 50-50%. We paid 50% and the Council paid 50%. Now, I believe it should be a rewarding partnership, and the partnership is between the committee and the volunteers of the Bunbury Tennis Club and the City Council. Frankly, I really don't see why we should be paying anything because we're managing this for the city. We really are. It's hard work. Our coaches go throughout the schools here and coach children. We promote healthy lifestyle. Everyone benefits out of this. We put in a lot of work, and to turn around to say, you must please pay $9,000, exactly who's going to pay that? Are we going to be asking the volunteers to pay towards that asset? It's a city asset. I plead with you tonight. We've offered and agreed on $3,040, which really comes out of the fees that we collect. If that money didn't go to the city, it in fact would go back to the infrastructure. We maintain those courts ourselves. The City Council doesn't provide anything. We buy our own lawnmowers. I don't think there are many sporting facilities in Bunbury that actually do that. I think ourselves and one other club are the only club in the city that do that. We pay the people to cut the lawns. We buy the lawnmowers. We pay for fuel, for everything. The city doesn't provide very much. But we have been grateful to what we've got so far, and we're happy to continue with the relationship. But this to us has come as a real slap in the face. Instead of saying, well done guys, we are grateful you are part of this team, we've been told to pay from $1,700, $9,000. I don't believe that is fair, because I do believe we do a fantastic job looking after a fantastic facility. So I plead with you tonight. Let us agree on what you've already agreed at $3,000. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Karatamoglu. Unfortunately, this is not a forum for questions, so thank you for your presentation. Appreciate that. Councillors, we have an executive recommendation. We also are aware of an alternative recommendation. Is there somebody prepared to move? Have a seat, Mr. Karatamoglu. Someone prepared to move the executive recommendation? We have an alternative recommendation. Councillor Cook has given notice of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, my alternate recommendation is on the screen. Not really sure that item 3 is as I wanted it. I prefer item 3 to read, rent payable is in accordance with the negotiated value of $3,040 excluding GST per annum. Otherwise, the recommendation remains.
Okay, I'll see if I can get a second for that, Councillor Cook.
Thank you.
Councillor McGuell. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the club president has pretty well put it all together for us. But the Bunbury Tennis Club's been in lease negotiations for quite some time with city officers, and came away from the negotiations with the expectation that council would accept their offer to pay $3,040 per annum. This represents an increase of 88% over the previously paid lease of $1,614. But the club is prepared to do their fair share of the heavy lifting during these difficult financial times. The valuation, whilst confidential, contains so many riders about community benefit, not-for-profits, etc., it is impossible for the valuer to come up with an accurate assessment of a fair and equitable lease fee. And it is my view that as councillors we'll have to use our discretionary powers to nominate an appropriate lease payment by the tennis club. I suggest the amount should be the previously negotiated figure of $3,040 per annum, plus GST and CPI movements for future years. Public open space is vested in the city to provide community benefit, and it is in council's own interest to promote sport and healthy outdoor activities. The club has a proven track record of being prepared to stand on their own 2 feet and not come to council for financial support on a regular basis. The figures the club have provided show an expenditure of some $149,000 of their own money to maintain and enhance the asset during a 6-year period. During the same period, council is said to have contributed $9,740. It's interesting to note that for every improvement to the building's surrounds means an increase in potential value, and that in itself may mean higher lease fees in the future. Mr. Mayor, councillors, I urge your support of the alternate motion before you and accept the annual lease fee of $3,040 per annum to the Bunbury Tennis Club. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor McGuell. Councillors, one of the issues with this matter has highlighted to me is the difficulty we have trying to get a valuation, a reliable valuation when we use that as a basis for leases. I think the rent tier matrix we have in place is fair, equitable, transparent. The difficulty we have, I believe, is the valuation process that we use. And at the moment, the valuation we use is a commercial-based valuation, and that needs to be addressed. And I've asked the CEO to prepare a recommendation from staff to be presented to the next meeting of the policy committee to have a look at that way we come about valuations. It may be that we need to look at using our discretion more often, but I think it's very helpful to have some guidelines in place. So with that, is there a speaker against? Councillor McCleary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would actually like to look what I heard tonight, that I need more time to make a decision, and I'd like to put a motion forward that we defer this till the next meeting, so we have the opportunity to discuss what's been put up tonight.
Okay, until the next council meeting.
So we have the opportunity to discuss the project also what the CEO's been informed of. There's been more questions from me now than answers.
Okay, just take a seat. Is there a seconder to Councillor McCleary's motion to defer? Councillor Jones. Councillors, I'll put that. So we're seeking to defer this matter for one council round to enable that information to be further digested. Is that basically it, Councillor McCleary? All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's 6 each. I'll use my casting vote to vote that we do defer for one round. So, Mr Karatamoglu and members of the Tennis Club, this matter is being deferred for one round of council, which is a fortnight, to further consider your presentation tonight and also to consider the matters about how we arrive at valuation. So, 2 more weeks. Come back and visit us again. .2.4, councillors, is the next item. We'll just wait till the gallery clears. Is there somebody prepared to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Steck? Councillor Giles? Councillor Steck?
Thank you, sir. Quite often, councillors do require further learning to do their job in this place, and I think it's a very good opportunity that councils do allow their councillors to go off and learn, because most often it's always the CEO and the mayor, or the CEO and the elected mayor of their council, or what they call it, the head of the council. But in saying that, councillors still need the background information, because so often when we go to do planning approvals and so on, we are told that planning and other matters of council are an expertise that councillors can't intervene in, and I find that really quite ironic that we are governing over something that supposedly we have nothing or no knowledge of, in inverted commas. So I support any knowledge of councillors and councillors' learning, and I encourage it. And so does WALGA, and so does most of the councils around Australia. When you look, most councils have about a $5,000 budget for learning of all councillors. So this is really nothing comparison to the staff budget of learning, by the way, as well.
Councillor Giles?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just reiterate what Councillor Steck was just saying. I think it would be a very valuable learning experience for both the CEO and Councillor Steele, and I think we should encourage people who are prepared to give their own time to go to these events and to then bring back that knowledge and expertise to our community. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, at the moment we haven't got any councillor nominated for this. We'll come back to that if this is approved. Councillor Kelly?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the executive recommendation that deletes the words "and the Chief Executive Officer."
Yes. Is there a seconder? Councillor
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I've given great thought to this. I believe, firstly, I agree with Councillor Steck on the basis of sending a councillor there and bringing back that wisdom. I think that's a governance issue. I think that a councillor should attend this conference, and it's my view that in the first step, from governance point of view, they gain some strategic insight on applying the concept of placemaking. Hopefully, maybe in the future we'll have a committee on that and see what happens in October. And in the second place, getting some practical ideas. I'm hoping that the councillor that's put into that slot there is going to bring home the conference, importantly, how they intend to apply it strategically to Bunbury. And I accept all of the bits in the item about enabling further insight on key matters of the what and the how and everything else that goes with it. Now, as far as the CEO is concerned, with respect, I believe that there should staff member going, but I think that it needs to be one of the staff within the community development forum in that executive. I'm not saying who it ought to be, it's not my job, but I don't believe that this is at a CEO level. I believe it is at a councillor level and staff member level who is active in that field. So what I'm arguing is that by deleting the words "and the Chief Executive Officer," that we can approve the attendance of a councillor to get to this most important conference, and at the same time allow the CEO to get on with those higher order things that are required in Bunbury and in the city, and possibly consider one of our capable staff members who is going to be at the coalface with placemaking as their role in the council administration in the future, to send somebody like that as well. So, Mr Mayor, that's the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, pretty much the same line. I mean, it's up to the CEO whether he wants to send an officer or not, but I would urge him to do so, because I think the councillor does deserve some officer support while they're on the job. Thank you.
Speaker against this amendment? I'll put the amendment. All in favour? Those against? The amendment is carried and becomes the substantive motion. Is there a further speaker against the substantive motion we have? I'll put it. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. So, councillors, I now invite nomination of councillors or councillor who would like to attend.
Mr Mayor, I'll nominate Councillor Steele to attend this conference.
Second.
Yep. Further nominations? I'll put it. All in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. (10.5.1) councillors is the next item. Now, Mr James, is there a Mr James? Would you like to come forward? Welcome. You've been provided 5 minutes to make a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. I own a property in Fielder Street and Bolton, which I've recently developed. 2 units facing Bolton, 2 units facing Fielder Street, which I plan on keeping for the long term. I don't have too much problems with Fielder Street, as now that we've been cut off at the plaza, pretty much your only alternative is going one way down that street. Bolton is a bit of an issue. Also, in the vote fors and against, there's actually probably only 5 houses that are in Bolton Street, where there's probably significantly more in Fielder Street. So you're not getting a very good representation of the against with that small amount of people on Bolton at the moment. But once the changes are made, people who live on Bolton Street will have to go down Spencer Street, up Plaza, along Joseph Buswell, down Fielder Street, back onto Spencer Street, and then left at the busy intersection back into Bolton Street. It seems a very convoluted way of getting to your residence. Also, there's now no back door, 2 ways to get down the street once you turn Joseph Buswell into a one-way street at Beach Road there. So I just wanted to make sure that you've got a viewpoint from people who actually live in the area. It's a bit hard to see that on a map when you're looking at it. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much,
Right.
Mr.
Thank you.
James. So I'm prepared to move the executive recommendation. You can move that, Councillor Steele, if you give reasons and a date for the matter to be deferred to.
Well, I'd like us to sit around and due to... I have to have a seconder, do I first, before I give a reason?
No, you give us a reason and then I'll get a
reason
second.
being due to Mr James and another resident that also contacted us today and brought us up with the effects that this is actually going to have on that area and how it's basically not going to work. So I think we need to just go back and have a look at it.
Councillor Giles seconding. Okay, councillors, I'll put that. So this will be deferred to the next council meeting.
I'd like actually a month. So another 2 weeks we've got to sit down with the planners.
Okay, Councillor Giles, do you
think?
agree with that? So deferral for 1 month to enable further discussion to be held and consideration of the implication of what's proposed. We all clear, councillors? All in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's carried. Mr James, this matter's being deferred for 4 weeks to enable the officers and the elected members to further consider the implications of what's proposed based on your presentation tonight and also others that have presented to some of our elected members. So it'll be deferred for 1 month.
So what happens in that month's period?
Well, we'll chat to you after the meeting. Mr Harris might like to have a chat with you. Councillors, I declare this meeting closed at 5:56 p.m. And just a reminder, we're having a confidential budget briefing almost straight away. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming along.